Welcome back to Inside Politics here on Silverbird Television. I'm David Chidu. Now let's get into the conversation very quickly. We're talking about the balance between press freedom and national security, and also facilitating and, or if you like, fostering public trust in a democratic society. We're being joined on the program by the Vice Chairman, Nigerian Institute of Public Relations, Lagos State Chapter, Mrs. Eniola Mayowa. She joins us on the program. Good evening. Thank you for joining us on the program this evening, Ms. Eniola. Right, let's start with the basics, Ms. Eniola. Give us a sense of what press freedom truly means in the real sense of it in a democratic society. We hear it, we talk about it, but very many don't really, understand the full scale of it or the full gamut of it. Give us a sense of it.
Press freedom is essentially, it's part of what's defined a democratic government, and is essentially the freedom of journalists and media organizations to be able to report, to be able to gather information, to be able to publish without undue interference by the political setting or undue censorship or intervention. It's essentially for them to be able to report without any ambition, to be able to report a balance, give balanced reports to their audience without any form of undue censor, without any form of intimidation, without any form of political interference. And of course, it promotes transparency and accountability when there's press freedom. Journalists are able to deliver their job without any form of fear or anxiety. And again, when you look at it, it enables citizens to also make informed decisions, because when people are well informed through the media, they are able to also make informed decisions, and it strengthens democracy. So it's actually in the interest of the government to also enable press freedom, to enable an environment that enable journalists to do their work without any form of intimidation, any form of inhibition, any form of harassment. And of course, when journalists are allowed to do their job without any form of intimidation, it builds public confidence in our institutions. It enables people to also hear their view and opinion without fear of being harassed, or without fear of being labeled, or without fear of being judged. So press freedom is one of the critical elements that describe a democratic government.
That there are certain instances where events occur and it's really serious and really sensitive, and the government wants to manage information. They have to deal with the dilemma of addressing the Nigerian citizens, both home and in the diaspora, as you were, adequately on the said issues that are on ground. But the problem in most cases is some of these issues are classified, or some of this information are classified. So how exactly, do they begin to manage this sort of information and not particularly stifle, or if you like, infringe on media or press freedom?
Okay, for every information that needs to go out there, it's very important that there's some level of balancing. While there is a need for a public to know, we also have to ensure that it's not at the risk of the security of the nation. It doesn't also expose the government unduly. And of course, it doesn't also create anxiety in the system. So there must be some kind of balancing. Yes, government should probably clearly define what constitutes, genuine national security and what it can cause to the nation. So that means that, yes, there's government should not censor, information should not be censored, but again, there must be some level of balancing. If that information is not going to put the nation at risk, especially undue to external aggression and the likes, I think, yes, journalists should not be prevented or should not be stopped from actually having access to such information, so that the citizen can, by extension, also be able to access such information. But again, we also need to understand that we need to respect due process before restricting publication. You know, you don't just bounce on journalists or bounce on media organization because they report a situation or they report or they pass out an information. The understanding must be established. And of course, the journalists also, I don't think any journalist or any media organization we want to sensationalize issue or want to expose the nation unduly. But again, the interest of journalists or the media organization, first and foremost, lies with the citizenry. They have responsibility to the people. Yes, because again, their loyalty does not lie with the government, but with the people. But they must be responsible enough to ensure that those information do not in any way upset the system to an extent that we are exposed to undue aggression or whatever.
We have certain incidents that happen, and of course, there are guardrails around national security, which essentially is supposed to protect the citizenry. But as a PR professional, would you say that some of these guardrails have been used, to stifle press freedom, where they say, oh, listen, you cannot do this because it's going to have this and this and that, knock-on effect on national security or the safety of lives and property and all of that. And because of that, certain individuals, mostly, within the corridors of power, use that to frustrate the efforts of, the press. Would you say that this has happened all too often?
Journalists have the responsibility to share information to the public. So it then means that in a situation for government to say that, okay, some information because of security should not go to the public, it should not do that unduly or overtly, because again, there's a responsibility on the part of journalists. So for instance, when a journalist wants to expose corruption, and you're saying that these are some of the things that cannot go into, no, except there's information that may or has the potential to jeopardize the interest or expose the nation to risk. I do not think there should be a no-go area in that sense, because if you are saying that there are some no-go areas, then there are possibility that everything can be classified as no-go area, and that may be inhibiting the responsibility of journalists to actually expose what they need to expose. For instance, when we're talking about issue of corruption and government officials involvement, we can't say that, oh, these are areas that we should not be exposed, or maybe some people are doing things that may tarnish the image of the country. I think those people that are involved in such should actually be dealt with in such manner that the whole world see that this is being addressed, rather than blaming journalists for bringing such to fall. Again, when you talk about misuse of public resources, you can't say that people should not, journalists should not report such, because as a government, you have the responsibility to sufficiently manage the resources of the nation in a very responsible manner. When we talk about things that involve public safety, you cannot tell the journalists not to report such, and you cannot say that those are classified in a way. So those are some of the things we need to balance. When we are talking about some supporting democratic government accountably, making a demand for accountability from the democratic government, such cannot be classified as a no-go area or as tendency to impede the security of the nation. And of course, when you look at it, we need also to encourage dialogue instead of intimidation. As government, you need to encourage dialogue instead of intimidation, and you need to respect due process. When you are saying that some information are classified as classified as not for public consumption, it's also very important that government must mandatorily avoid overclassification of information, because when you begin to put every information or some information under being classified as a no-go area for journalists, then you are also actually making them to get more agitated, more to report as much as possible. So it's also very important for government to regularly engage journalists. Through a structured setting, engage journalists and let them understand through media briefing, so that these are the information for the interest of the nation. These are the area. But when it is perceived as this government just want to cover up, They just don't want journalists to do their job. They just want to gag the media organization. Of course, there will be resistance. And at such point, the press freedom is being threatened or maybe put in jeopardy.
Now, with your ongoing 2026 NIPR program tagged security, nation building, and public trust, fostering collective responsibility through strategic public relations, we had the opportunity to speak with the chairman, Dr. Ayetutu. And one of the things he said was that there are inadequately learned, if you like, communications professionals or communications individuals in certain agencies, and that's why we see failings in communication across the board. So what is the NIPR doing as far as working out a collaboration with these agencies to train their supposed communicators or PR professionals?
Okay, I think one of the things we are doing as an institute is what's this annual lecture. That is one of the things. Okay, let's bring this discussion to fore. Let's have conversation around it. Let's bring professionals. Let's bring people from diverse sector to begin to come and talk about it. For instance, on Thursday, we are going to have security officers. I mean, those who are at the center of security to have this discussion. And again, we as the communication managers, we have the responsibility to ensure that the right information is passed to the public. And of course, when you also look at it, we also have the responsibility to ensure that we discourage any form of reckless information management, because we're in the age of deepfake, where fake information, untrue information is passed across. And sometimes we begin to find it so difficult to even understand or to even demarcate or to even distinguish between the fake and the truth. So for us in NIPR and as PR practitioner, we owe it a nation to ensure that the communication on our security is adequately provided, is provided in a very responsible manner, and is provided to the right people, to the society, to the public, in a way that is empathetic to the situation that is happening in the country currently. Imagine people who are being exposed on daily basis to issue of security. From PR point of view, want to say, hey, the nation sympathizes with you, the nation understands, and government is doing all that it can to address the situation. PR is such a very dynamic profession that while we are protecting the interests of the government, where we are protecting the interest of the principal, we also have the responsibility to ensure that whatever we are doing as human face, it's about the people, that people are well protected and people are not left alone in their risk or lowest points. These are some of the responsibilities that we have as PR practitioners to ensure that the right communication is disseminated, and whatever it is that is happening, we are looking at issues from the human angle.
Now, on a final note, Mrs. Mayowa, there are some cases where the government releases certain information after perhaps maybe a huge incident, and then citizens, meet said information with mixed reaction. And in some cases, they see the information put out by the government or the communication put out by the government as an attempt on the part of government to save face or an attempt at damage control. So it makes them suspect that something is amiss or something is not particularly in order. So you are a PR person, you are an information manager. In your view, what do you think can be done as information managers to help rebuild public trust and not view information, most information actually that comes from the seat of power, as suspicious or aimed at insulting our collective intelligence?
Okay, as a communication manager, PR reputation manager, we will always encourage government to be truthful at every time. Propaganda will not get it. Distrust will not get it. And it so happened that, when we talk about managing reputation and managing information, You have to be intentional about telling the truth, saying it as it is. As government, you don't always get it right, but it is important for you to admit where where there's a mistake, and also let people, because again, it so happened that even when you are building a reputation, you have always stated the fact. One moment that you bring in distrust, then it becomes difficult for people to trust you. So as for government should always have it at the back of their mind that whatever they are doing is about the people. And if that is the position, it will not be difficult for you to begin to share what is happening, to let people know what you are doing, to address unpalatable situation. And there's no point denying the fact. Yes, admit the fact, but again, in your admittance, provide solution. Let people understand that this is the way things are, but things are being done to address the situation, so that at the end of the day, if you are doing that consistently over time with the people in mind from a empathetic point of view, and you are consistent on that, giving facts, ensuring that the information is accurate. Where there is doubt, you create opportunity to explain, to tell the story, and to show that you are making effort to address the situation consistently. I think over time, people will begin to have trust in government. People begin to build that trust, begin to be built over time. But where government consistently deny obvious situation, even when they are being sincere, people will not trust them. Even when they are telling their story, when they are saying the truth, it becomes a game of guessing or people not believing. But government needs to consistently pass information from the position of the people, showing empathy, letting people know that it is about them. Because when we look at it, what is government? Government is about the people. And if people cannot trust the government, then there is a problem. So whatever it is that government is disseminating, it becomes like the way they always say. Because again, they have reference. Things in the past, government have denied in the face of obvious reasons to believe. So government should make itself more believable. Government should be consistent in the information they pass across to the people. And government should also understand that one lie told will deny many truths coming from government. And that is very important. Thank you.
Okay, now we've talked about the government and what they need to do, and your establishment or your sector, beg your pardon. How about the information merchants as well? We're talking about the media or the press at this point in time. In your view, what do you think they need to start to do better comparatively? Of course, what is going on is what we see happening, but surely there's always a place for better. So in your view, as a PR professional, what would you say that the media or the press, as it were, generally need to start doing to report matters of national security much better, or if you like, much more sensitive information much better?
Okay, I think for the media, one, training is very, very important. I believe so much in training. Our journalists needs to be trained to understand that, yes, we have responsibility to report. We also have responsibility to understand that whatever we put our nation at risk, especially from external aggression, we should not sensationalize it. And again, the other thing is government, the media should also need to understand that in your reportage, especially talking about security issue, you don't want to hype the aggressors. You don't want to hype the bandits. You don't want to report from a position that suggests that, oh, they are having upper hand, they are winning. So it is very important that we also have that at the back of our mind as journalists. And of course, you also need to for government to also institute media dialogue, security dialogue. It's very important. Let government institute media security dialogue so that over time you keep the conversation going on the need to report issue of security responsibly. not intimidation. Intimidation will not achieve it. Don't begin to train security agencies on media engagement as well. Security agencies need also to be trained on how best they can engage with the media. It's not by force or using the paraphernalia of their office to achieve it. They also need to train journalists on conflict sensitive reporting. I think that is also very important. And of course, strengthening freedom of information is very also important, because implementation of information is something that media does all the time. And it's also very important that we have a clear path to achieve that, so that at the end of the day, the nation is not put at jeopardy. Journalists report issues responsibly, and also we promote ethical journalism. You don't report for self or for selfish interest. What does the ethic of the profession says with respect to reporting? That is also very important. And of course, we need to also encourage independent oversight of national security restriction, because when you look at it, yes, there could be restriction, but that must be clearly spelled out. And the journalists must gain the understanding of journalists on why such is needed in our nation, because journalists, media organization, government, we are all in this nation together. So we must maintain that balance. There must be constant, continuous engagement. There must be training on the part of the journalists, on the part of security agencies. And of course, there must also be the need for the security agencies to know that while they have the force, they have the power, but they should also understand that somebody has the pain, and both carry its weight, and there must be some kind of balance.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Eniola Mayowa, for joining us this evening on the program. Ms. Eniola is the Vice Chairman, NIPR Lagos State Chapter. Once again, thank you for being a part of the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
And that's all our package is on today's edition of Inside Politics. We've been talking about the fine balance between national security and press freedom, of course, achieving both, as you were, in a democratic society, talking about the implications for democracy, good governance, as well as building public trust. Once again, thank you for watching today's episode of the program.